This program proudly brought to you by Sporting Bet. Bet anywhere, anytime on the Sporting Bet app for iPhone.
We're on two standout performers here this morning, Nikita and How Much Do You Love Me look very impressive.
Yeah, terrific couple of jump outs this morning, Simon. The first one was Nikita, 3-year-old filly having her first look at the straight, and you couldn't have been happier with the way she seemed to relax down the straight. She certainly wasn't fired up, but her time was terrific, and she's run just a tick over 46 seconds for her 800 metre heat out of the barriers and home in about 21.3, and it didn't appear to be really being pushed out. So she's travelled very well and worked terrifically. And then only a few minutes later, we saw How Much to Love Me, who we know is a fit, up and running sprinter. He was terrific winning at Caulfield last start. He's going into Saturday Salinger, and he got down the straight almost a second quicker than Nikita. No quicker, and even a fraction slower for the last 400, because he was rolling for the majority of the trip, whereas Nikita worked into her work a little bit and quickened the last little bit. But gee, How Much Do You Love Me was very impressive, and they don't go much quicker than he did down the straight for his 800 metres. So yeah, two horses, or the winners of those two jump outs, were terrific. I thought behind them there was a couple of nice performances too. John O'Shea's two horses heading to the Coolmore in Night Exemplar and Shelford both trialled really well without being pushed out, and ran second in the jump outs respectively, and John O'Shea would have been very pleased with their efforts leading into Saturday as well.
We saw some of the other contenders for the Derby go around this morning. It's a Done Deal and Honorius, two of the more favoured runners. Yeah,
well, It's a Done Deal's obviously coming off that placing at Moonee Valley when he was beaten as a short price favourite on Saturday. He had no more than a trot and canter around and on the course proper this morning, but appeared bright and his action looked good, but he certainly didn't do any work of note. And Honorius had a good solid hit out over 2,000 metres with Corey Brown on board and worked really nicely. I thought Honorius's work was really good, and there's a couple of other good workers around the circle. I thought a couple of the Patnack horses, I think the Thompson team would be going home with very happy with this morning. Obviously Nikita's jump out we've talked about, but Pear Tart worked with Trasonic and worked really nicely. Trasonic hasn't quite achieved what Pear Tart has yet, but the work was good. But gee, Pear Tart worked well, and Mauls Creek worked nicely too. I thought he's a very strong running galloper, a real bold galloper, but he looked really bright and fit and strong this morning. I thought both of those teams worked well, as did Graham Begg's Secret Admirer, who's coming back from the Caulfield Cup run, and she can get a bit keen in her track work. I've seen her before, and Graham Begg restricts her to quite short, sharp gallops, but she was easily the quickest last 400 of the morning when she got rolling in the gallops around the circle. Sorry, not including the jump outs, but in the gallops around the circle, she was clearly the quickest last 400, but she only did dash up her last 600. But she looks to have come through that Caulfield Cup run really well, and back in trip at Flemington on Saturday, she could run very well, and we know she's a classy galloper.
Wouldn't be a spring carnival without Bart Cummings, and he put the polish on Sanagas and Dare to Dream here this morning.
Yeah, Sanagas has already qualified for the Melbourne Cup, and Dare to Dream's got to win the Lexus to get a start on Tuesday. They had a good gallop for Bart, worked over 2,000 metres and home just a tick under 24 seconds, which is solid work on the course proper, and you rarely see Bart's go much quicker than that. He doesn't really like to set track records on track gallops. He tries to reserve obviously a lot for race day, and his record in the races says he does a very good job at getting them to peak on the day. And look, it was really solid work. It was nice work, and both horses are up and running, and they go into Saturday with a typical Cummings preparation, and it would be no surprise to see either of them run well.
Gay had a couple shoot the breeze, as she likes to say, Fat Al and Kabayan.
Yeah, Fat Al worked with Our Desert Warrior, and Kabayan went around on his own, and it was just for Gay, it certainly wasn't strong, solid work. They weren't there to break the clock either, but they worked nicely, and there's plenty of targets for those horses over the next week at Flemington, and I suppose Our Desert Warrior heads to the Derby, and there's a couple of options with Fat Al, probably more than likely head to the Emirates on the last day, and Kabayan, well, he's had a busy campaign. I don't know if we'd see the best of Kabayan. It's just my opinion. He looks like he's closer to the end of his campaign than the start, but they can all pull out a good run at times, and Gay will be pulling out all stops, I'm sure, to get them right on the day. But out of those, I would think Fat Al's the best chance to chalk up a winner for Gay in the next week or so.
Just in summary, a very hard-held How Much Do You Love Me, the highlight of the morning, you think?
Yeah, you don't see them go much quicker than that, but that's him. He's a sort of horse where I suppose if you asked him to really quicken, I don't know if he'd go much quicker, and that's why Brent Navdalla's got such a good association with him. He just lets him run at his own tempo, and it makes it hard for the horses behind him to travel up, because they've got to get off the bit to chase him, and he's just cruising at his own speed. So yeah, you're right, it was the most impressive performance of the morning.
This program proudly brought to you by Sporting Bet. Bet anywhere, anytime on the Sporting Bet app for iPhone.